You're watching The Citizen Report, real, in-depth American.
Welcome to The Citizen Report. I'm John DeShannon. Thank you for joining me tonight. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. It's always good to be back here with you, and thank you so much for joining me. So tonight, I want to talk a little bit about this Marjorie Taylor Greene announcement that she is resigning from Congress. She's resigning her seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. So I want to get to that. That's the main point of tonight's video. But first, just briefly here at the very beginning, I want to issue a material correction to something I said in my last report. I was showing a picture featuring various members of Congress, mainly senators, but there were also also a congressman in there, and they were posed with for a picture with one of the sons of George Soros. I incorrectly referred to that son as Jonathan Soros. The actual name of that son of George Soros is Alexander Soros. So, wanted to make that correction here at the very beginning. And that's the individual that I was actually intending to refer to. So when I make a material incorrect statement, materially incorrect statement, and I realize it, I usually make an effort to try to actually come on and correct that. So that's what I'm doing here tonight, and it's been a week. It's been a pretty long week for me. So hopefully everyone out there understands, we all make mistakes. So on that note, let's go to this Marjorie Taylor Greene situation that has developed rather rapidly. And if you don't know who she is, then you really don't understand current U.S. politics. So she is one of the leading I would call it's not really leading Republican. She's more like one of the leading independent, happens to be registered as Republican, because the whole party system is corrupt. I think we all know that at this point. I shouldn't even need to say that. But she has announced that she is going to be resigning her seat. It's not effective immediately. As I understand, she will be still there in Congress, still duly, seated in Congress, so to speak, until January the 5th in 2026. So she is resigning that seat. I believe that does trigger a special election in Georgia in that district. And as I understand it, it is a very Republican-leaning district, so there's no likely scenario that points to a Democrat taking that seat, but, with the way things are, with how they count things, choosing my words carefully because it is YouTube. It's anything's possible at this point, but I'm pretty sure that seat is probably in the safe category as far as that is concerned. But I want to read to you what she actually said, and I'm going to provide some commentary because I'm still kind of digesting this, as I'm sure all of you are, in trying to make sense of what the heck is going on with what's happening with Marjorie Taylor Greene, MAGA, Trump, all of it. I think I might have a couple of theories that are, you could call it educated guesses. But first, I just want to read the actual, it's a pretty lengthy statement, so just bear with me here as I try to hammer through this. But this is the actual statement that she put up on X to announce her impending resignation. So let's go to that now, and we will read through this. From the desk of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. I've always represented the common American man and woman as a member of the House of Representatives, which is why I've always been despised in Washington, D.C. and never fit in. Americans are used by the political industrial complex of both political parties, election cycle after election cycle, in order to elect whichever side can convince Americans to hate the other side more. And the results are always the same. No matter which way the political pendulum swings, Republican or Democrat, nothing ever gets better for the common American man or woman. The debt goes higher. Corporate and global interests remain Washington's sweethearts. American jobs continue to be replaced, whether it's by illegal labor or legal labor, by visas or just shipped overseas. Small businesses continue to be swallowed by big corporations. Americans' hard-earned tax dollars always fund foreign wars, foreign aid, and foreign interests. The spending power of the dollar continues to decline. The average American family can no longer survive on a single breadwinner's income, as both parents must work in order to simply survive. And today, many in my children's generation feel hopeless for their future and don't think they will ever realize the American dream, which breaks my heart. I ran for Congress in 2020 and have fought every single day believing that Make America Great Again meant America first. I have one of the most conservative voting records in Congress, defending the First Amendment, Second Amendment, unborn babies, because I believe God creates life. At conception, strong, safe borders, I fought against COVID tyrannical insanity and mandated mass vaccinations, and I've never voted to fund foreign wars. However, with almost 1 year into our majority, the legislature has been mostly sidelined. We've endured an 8-week shutdown, wrongly resulting in the House not working for the entire time. And we are entering campaign season, which means all courage leaves and only safe campaign re-election mode is turned on. During the longest shutdown in our nation's history, I raged against my own speaker and my own party for refusing to proactively work diligently to pass a plan to save American health care and protect Americans from outrageous, overpriced, and unaffordable health insurance policies. The House should have been in session working every day to fix this disaster. But instead, America was force-fed disgusting political drama once again from both sides of the aisle. My bills, which reflect many of President Trump's executive orders, like calling for a new census counting Americans only to draw new districts, making English the official language of the U.S., making it a felony to medically trans a minor, in other bills like eliminating capital gains tax on the sale of your home and eliminating H-1B visas, just sit collecting dust. That's how it is for most members of Congress's bills. The Speaker never brings them to the floor for a vote. Many common Americans are no longer easily convinced by paid political propaganda spokespersons and consultants on TV, in paid shills on social media, obediently serving with cult-like conviction to force others to swallow the political party talking points. Because they know how much credit card debt they have, they know how much their own bills have gone up over the past 5 years. They actually do their own grocery shopping and know food costs too much. Their rent has increasingly gone up. They have been outbid by corporate asset managers too many times when they put in an offer to buy a house. They have been laid off after being forced to train their visa-holding replacement. The college degree they were told to earn only left them in debt with no big six-figure salary. They see more homeless people than ever on their own community streets. They can't afford health insurance or practically any insurance, and they just aren't stupid. These are the people I represent and love, because that is who all my family and friends are, common Americans. I have been blessed to represent the 14th District of Georgia for 5 years, which is filled with some of the most wonderful, kind-hearted, God-fearing, patriotic, hard-working people you will ever meet. Good, regular, common Americans. I've worked hard to bring taxpayer dollars back home to help district needs. I impeached Biden's Secretary of Homeland after watching my own constituents die as he facilitated the dangerous open border invasion into America and led the effort to defund hard left politically biased NPR, PBS, and the corrupt USAID as the chair of the DOJ subcommittee. I have fought harder than almost any other elected Republican to elect Donald Trump and Republicans to power, traveling the country for years, spending millions of my own money, missing precious time with my family that I can never get back, and showing up in places like outside the New York courthouse in Collect Pond Park against a raging leftist mob as Trump faced Democrat lawfare. Meanwhile, most of the establishment Republicans who secretly hate him and who stabbed him in the back and never defended him against anything have all been welcomed in after the election. And I will never forget the day I had to leave my mother's side as my father had brain surgery to remove cancerous tumors in order to fly to Washington, D.C. to defend President Trump and vote no against the Democrats' second impeachment in 2021. My poor father and my poor mother, it was way too much. Through it all, I never changed or went back on my campaign promises and only disagreed in a few areas like my stance against H-1Bs replacing American jobs, AI state moratoriums, debt for life, 50-year mortgage scams, standing strongly against all involvement in foreign wars, in demanding the release of the Epstein files. Other than that, my voting record has been solidly with my party and the president. Loyalty should be a two-way street, and we should be able to vote our conscience and represent our district's interests because our job title is literally representative. America First should mean America First and only Americans first, with no other foreign country ever being attached to America First in our halls of government. Standing up for American women who were raped at 14, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for. However, while yes, hurtful, my heart remains filled with joy, my life filled with happiness, and my true convictions remain unchanged because my self-worth is not defined by a man, but instead by God who created everything in existence. You see, I have never valued power, titles, or attention in spite of all the wrong assumptions about me. I do not cling to those things because they are meaningless and empty traps. Too many people in Washington. I believe in term limits and do not think Congress should be a lifelong career or assisted living facility. My only goal and desire has been to hold the Republican Party accountable for the promises it makes to the American people and put America first. And I have fought against Democrats' damaging policies like the Green New Deal, wide open, deadly unsafe border policies, and the trans agenda on children and against women. With that has brought years of nonstop, never-ending personal attacks, death threats, lawfare, ridiculous slander, and lies about me that most people could never withstand even for a day. It has been unfair and wrong not only to me and especially my family, but to my district as well. I have too much self-respect and dignity, love my family way too much, and do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president we all fought for, only to fight and win my election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms. And in turn, be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me. It's all so absurd and completely unserious. I refuse to be a battered wife hoping it all goes away and gets better. If I am cast aside by MAGA Inc. and replaced by neocons, big pharma, big tech, military industrial war complex, foreign leaders, and the elite donor class that can't even relate to real Americans, then many common Americans have been cast aside and replaced as well. There is no plan to save the world or insane 4D chess game being played. When the common American people finally realize and understand that the political industrial complex of both parties is ripping this country apart, that not one elected leader like me is able to stop Washington's machine from gradually destroying our country, and instead the reality is that they, common Americans, the people, possess the real power over Washington, then I'll be here by their side to rebuild it. Until then, I'm going back to the people I love, to live life to the fullest as I always have, and look forward to a new path ahead. I will be resigning from office with my last day being January 5, 2026. Marjorie Taylor Greene. So that was her statement issued on social media. And my apologies there. I kind of got flustered for a second because I thought I had all four slides there in order, and I guess I didn't or something. But anyways, it all turned out, I suppose. But so what do I think about all this? Well, first of all, there's a lot of good points that were made. It talks about needing to prioritize this country over other countries, not letting foreign countries be, have a undue influence over our own politics and our own government. In fact, and I flashed it up on screen unintentionally, but inadvertently, I guess is the word. I flashed it up on screen, but this was the slide I was going to go to next here. And I haven't verified this, but this has been making the rounds on social media, which I think is kind of interesting. So let's put it up on screen for real quick. So if you don't know what AIPAC is, it basically is a firm, or I should say, it's basically like a lobbying entity that is promoting the state of Israel, I guess you could say, in Congress. I'm maybe oversimplifying that, but basically AIPAC has paid her exactly $0 and 0 cents. So if that's true, it is interesting. It's an interesting little point there to take note of. Now, I think that there is a there's a very bizarre statement that was included. I'm just going to go back to it. I'll bring it up on screen. She says, there is no plan to save the world or insane 4D chess game being played. Now, either this is to throw the deep state off and make her think, oh, she's on our side now. Or this is one of those disinformation things that are necessary, because I want to remind my audience that just because we're not in a full-blown kinetic war, we are in a war. It's called irregular warfare, and irregular warfare includes information warfare. What do you do in information warfare? You mix truth and lies, basically. And it could be that this is one of those things. Now, who knows? I don't know. Now, and I'm basically formulating two different theories at this point, with the full disclaimer, clear disclaimer, that I don't actually know exactly what to make of this at this immediate juncture. But what I do want to make the point of is this could be part of the big plan. And before I get to that, and the other theory, let me put this up. This is a screenshot, and this is purportedly of President Trump on Truth Social, I believe. And this is what he actually said earlier today. Marjorie Trader Brown, because of the plummeting poll numbers and not wanting to face a primary challenger with a strong Trump endorsement where she would have no chance of winning, has decided to call it quits. Her relationship with the worst Republican congressman in decades, Tom Massey of Kentucky, also known as Rand Paul Jr. because he votes against the Republican Party and really good legislation, did not help her. For some reason, primarily, that I refused to return her never-ending barrage of phone calls, Marjorie went bad. Nevertheless, I will always appreciate Marjorie and thank her for her service to our country. President DJT, and that, of course, is the initial for Donald J. Trump. So that's what Trump said. And I'm going to just step back and say for a second that if I didn't reframe this into sort of this, whether there's more to it than what meets the eye kind of thing, I personally would be absolutely fuming, quite honestly, at Trump, like as quote unquote loyal opposition, because I'm pretty open about it. I am pro Trump, okay, but I would be very upset actually, and I am upset, but I mean I would be literally upset, unbridledly so, if I didn't think there was more to this. Now, because I think that at face value, this is unfair to her. I believe that she stood up for a lot of the right things. She was a voice of reason during the 4 years of Biden, the autopin crap, and I think, like I said, she was a voice of reason. Now, there's two different theories that I think could be in play here, and let me just summarize the two, and then I'll kind of go into the two for a second. Either she has been turned by the deep state to sell out, whether she was ever genuine or not. That's theory number one. Now, I'm not saying number one, number two is like, the one being most likely. I'm just saying in no particular order. That's theory, that's one of the theories. The other theory is that this is, like we've been saying before, we're basically watching a movie. And what do you need to have a good movie? You need good actors. Now, let me go into that first theory real quick. So this is, again, choosing my words carefully because this is YouTube, but we'll say the 17 poster. Post number 1795, and let me see if I can just take this in full. There we go. Post number 1295 from April 29, 2018, and it reads, be careful who you are following. Some are profiting off this movement. Some are building a big following off this movement only then to retreat and go mainstream. Patriots make sacrifices, some the ultimate sacrifice. Patriots are selfless. Do they ask for monthly payments to remain patriots? Think logically. To some, it's only about the money. Those who would seek personal gain at the expense of others in this movement has an agenda. You decide. This is not a game. The only profit we should all be striving for is true freedom. God bless you all. And there you go. That's the post 1295 from April 29, 2018. So that's, I think, certainly worth considering. I pulled that up before I went on with this show tonight. But let me just build on that for a second and I'm not gonna say I can absolutely verify as fact this, but it's being alleged that her net worth has really, really grown since entering Congress. And where have we heard of that before? Oh, that's right. Pretty much everyone in Congress, or for most everyone in Congress, because it's just that infiltrated. It's being alleged that before she entering Congress, according to the Norwegian Standard, I don't know what that is, and I'm sourcing. Actually, I will put this up on screen. This is the Hindustan Times, and they claim basically that the Norwegian Standard reported that Green's net worth was estimated to be just $700,000 before entering Congress in 2020, and it's been alleged that that she has bought shares into Apple, Amazon, Dell, Nike, and Palantir, and Marjorie Taylor Greene claims that these were done by her advisor, not herself, and so she wasn't really involved in those decisions, basically, and that her wealth was built primarily before she entered Congress. And I will note that she is tied to a family business there locally, I believe, down there in Georgia. So I want to be very careful to not just cast her in one single light. I don't think we really know yet what's happening here, and I'm going to get to that in a second, but her net worth is allegedly $3.2 million in individual stocks, She has a 50% stake in Taylor Commercial Inc., a family-run construction business, and her congressional salary is $174,000 annually. She earned $178,000 in book royalties in 2024 from her memoir MTG, and and then this where it says here, and I'll put it back up on screen for a second. It says Quiver Quantita Place have placed Green's estimated net worth at $25 million as of October 2025, and that's a significant departure, assuming these numbers are correct, from her previous net worth of $700,000 before entering Congress. So you can take that for what you will, and then you want to reconcile that to that post I just read a few moments ago. Now, put that to the side for a second. Let's now consider this other element. Okay. So if you remember back several months ago, Elon Musk and Trump had this, this big falling out, and basically Elon Musk was more or less, in terms of what we were supposed to believe, basically, almost thrown out of the White House, so to speak, not literally, but that was kind of the mental picture being painted by, by Trump. Basically, I will never have anything else to do with, and I'm not quoting him, but basically, this huge, ugly falling out took place, and it was ugly. It really was. And then what did you see take place after that? You see Elon Musk and Trump sitting together at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. They were actually sitting together, and Trump has actually said that they're on, they're talking again, and things are more or less okay with them. Now, Elon Musk played his role, so to speak, in this movie, in this other theory that I'm kind of running in my head, and that his role was, as far as Doge is concerned, his role had kind of played out, its ran its course, as it will, and he was given sort of the exit off the stage. I think that could be what's going on with Marjorie Taylor Greene, that she's kind of fulfilled her role in this movie. She's now going to make her exit, while the deep state's thinking that she's now one of them. So they're, perhaps laying their guard down with her, or, it could be a number of different things. But I think there is more to it than what meets the eye. And then just one other thing I'll say on that. I don't think we've seen the last of her. I quite think it's very, very possible that she could do something down the line. I mean, I wouldn't even put it out of the realm of possibility that she's tapped to be a vice presidential candidate, potentially running with Vance in 2028, if Vance ends up being, which is widely assumed at this point that he will, and although not known, but it's widely assumed. And then, perhaps she could run for governor of Georgia, and there's a lot of deep state corruption. Let's not forget what happened in 2020. And I believe we still have Brian Kemp, who's a rhino, governor of Georgia. So it's quite possible that she could end up running in Georgia to be the next governor there. I don't know when his current term, Governor Kemp's term, runs out. But we'll see what happens. It's entirely possible that all this is, kind of some maneuvering here by the Patriots, and this is kind of, letting some theatrics play out. Because, like I said, what do you need to have a good movie? You need good actors. So let's just put this up on screen, and this is from NBC News. I believe the article is from 2016. Trump team signals he won't pursue Clinton investigations. Now, why did I just put this up? What is seemingly otherwise and completely unrelated news item. And I would say this is kind of a tell that over the course of time, that yes, Hillary Clinton has not been, that we know of, she's not been indicted. Who knows if she could be in some sealed indictment, yet to be unsealed. There's no way to know. But right now, we've seen this like, where the Patriots are saying, oh, this is not going to go down. We're not going to go after the deep staters. And now what are you seeing taking place? You're seeing some of the Biden admins, former admins, certainly in hot water at this point. So, and certainly on the Biden part, we'll see what happens with the Obama era people, but they're more or less the same people anyway. But what I want to say in closing is this, because right now we're seeing a big basically what amounts to be a scandal. And basically the media thinks that Trump's imploding, the MAGA movement's imploding, and everything's going off a cliff. Well, don't be so quick to assume that. There's a quote from Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and I want to put it up on screen. It says, appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. So let's really think about that for a second. If Trump is actually imploding, if he's losing his mind, well, basically at this point, if he's losing his mind, that could be all a facade, and that the Patriots are playing this out this way to have the deep state think, oh, let's go get him, because Trump is losing it, his base is fracturing. And the reality might well be, and I believe this is true, that the base isn't really fracturing. What you're seeing is a purge taking place because, well, what's happened in recent months? Some people, these people will never see this show, so I'm going to just say it. Mark Levin and some of these other people, they're quite fine with now showing their true colors, okay? We're finding out that they are for America in so much that it doesn't, basically where they believe it serves their interests, basically. And I'm going to be vague about that. I think people understand, if you're understanding some of the geopolitical aspects, I don't want to say that certain country's name. I think you can figure out what I'm getting at. But that certain country seems to have and again, it's not that country, it's the deep state working through that certain country in the Middle East to infiltrate our country. And so it's not that country, but it's the deep state infiltration and working through that as a vessel to then infiltrate our country. So we'll see how this plays out, but that's kind of where mentally I'm at in all of this. So we're seeing a big time exposure of people that have long claimed to be pro-America that, well, maybe they're not, okay? Some more confident to say than others on that at this stage. We're going to have to see how this plays out. But I think we're going to get to a point where Trump and the Patriots are going to be able to look at the chessboard and see the players very, very clearly where they stand and everything. And I have some questions, by the way, some of the people inside the White House, such as Susie Wiles, certainly some questions I have about her. We'll see what happens. But I would say don't be manipulated. Don't allow yourself to be fully manipulated by the deep state, by the mainstream Mockingbird media. And I might just mention, by the way, going back to my earlier report, my last report, about that seditious video, and I will call it seditious video, by Senator Slotkin from Michigan. Senator Slotkin actually used to be part of I won't say the agency's name for algorithm's sake, but I'll use I'll substitute a phrase, and you can figure out what I'm referring to. Clowns in action. So, okay. If that doesn't tell you that that's a psyop right there, I don't know what to tell you. And they're panicking, obviously. So the deep state's panicking. And so they got their darling, as it were, sort of, putting this rather foolish piece of video out there along with the other people. And it is seditious. And by the way, I'm not a veteran, okay? But I'm pretty sure, I'm confident to say that even as a veteran, again, I'm not a veteran, but for those who are veterans, okay, and some of these, not her, but some of these members of Congress, are veterans. I think Mark Kelly Mark Kelly is one. Just because you're honorably discharged out of the military, it actually does not fully relieve you of your obligations to the uniform code of military. Basically the uniform code of military justice. I wanted to make sure I get that phrase correct. Uniform code of military justice. If I'm not mistaken, their actual oath includes that. So they're still bound in some measure to that. So what Trump said about those people, well, it's not hard to figure out the legal consequences that could play out there. We'll have to see how this all plays out. It's very, very interesting, to say the very least. So on that note, God bless each and every one of you, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and bearing with me tonight. It's been a kind of a interesting few days personally. I think I can remain professional and say that, but I'm trying to do this, but it's been a very, very intense few days. I'll put it that way. So, but God's good nonetheless. So God bless each and every one of you, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Citizen Report. Don't forget my website, thecitizenreport.net. Don't forget to subscribe, keyword search The Citizen Report on Rumble. Of course, if you're here on YouTube, what are you waiting for? Go right ahead and subscribe here to my YouTube channel, Jonathan Shannon YouTube channel. And you can find me personally on X, Jonathan Shannon, at JFilmGuy. So on that note, God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you right back here again next time. Have a great night and a great weekend, everyone.